of MediaPost's Email Insider Summit, or as I like to call it, Luxury Email Camp for Grown-ups. My name is Matt Caldwell. I'm the VP of Creative Agency Services at Yesmail. For those of you that don't know, Yesmail is a large email service provider, the best and most sophisticated email service provider on the earth. There's none better. But what I do is I run a design agency from within Yesmail, and our clients, we help out eBay, Intel, Hewlett-Packard, Coca-Cola with email design. So template systems, reg pages, microsites, anything email related as far as design goes. And I'm based out of Portland. Please hold the Portlandia jokes. I've already hit my limit for this trip. We have about 15 designers and copywriters, mostly in Portland, but also in our other offices in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. So we focus just on email design, and about a third of our clients actually don't even use Yesmail as a sending platform. So we pretty much can be platform independent. Today, what I want to speak on is my specialty, and that is email design. So I've been, again, with the company for 12 years. I founded this group, and we're really faced at a really interesting time in email design. Well, frankly, we're well into it with the mobile age. It started, for us, we noticed it in about 2008. So what I'm talking about today is really two different tactics that you can take home and evaluate your own email designs and make sure that they can be read, opened, clicked on a mobile device. So two different tactics called scalable, and the other tactic called responsive, which is kind of generating a buzz this year. Before I start, I just want to thank the folks from MediaPost and also the steering committee. This is an excellent show. We really appreciate you putting it on every year and all your hard work. All right, so as I mentioned, we have really two ways to go about this surging opens on a mobile device. In about 2008, as I mentioned, we began to see 12%, 9%, 14% of our lists for these big companies were opening on a mobile device. Now, if we fast forward to today, for most of the clients that I work on, we're seeing in the mid-30s, 33 to 36%. Who else is in the 30s in terms of your list? Can I just get a show of hands? 30%, is that where most people are at? Is anyone over 30%? Anyone in the 40s? Yeah, okay. Anyone above, has anyone hit half of the list opening on an email device, 50%? Okay, so we're not quite there yet. We did run a campaign this last fall where for the first time ever, we saw that half of that list had opened on a mobile device. So it's obviously a very relevant topic. It's very important. What I want to give you today is just really the ways you can go about adjusting to this new environment that we're in, or actually maybe not too new, again, since 2008, this had begun. All right, so here's what I'm going to cover. We're going to look at scalable and responsive, talk about what's the difference between these two techniques, and really how you can overlap them and use both, which is what we advocate for. And then lastly, we're going to look at responsive in depth. I'll show you some examples, show you how it's coded. I'll be pretty quick to the point. Should take about 25 minutes or so. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. I'm happy to take them. All right, so the first one, scalable email design, is the first response to us seeing a large number of people open on a mobile device. We said, what are we going to do about this? Scalable email design is really pretty simple. It's all about how you design. It really doesn't have anything to do with the code. It doesn't have anything to do with your email service provider. It's simply about how you design. The way to remember scalable email design is it's the pumped up layout. It's a layout that's big. It uses big scale. Okay? So it uses big buttons, big type, big headlines, and big negative space or white space to go with it. And I'll show you some examples. But the reason why we do that is we make it a bigger layout, a bigger size layout, so that when it's reduced to half the size, so when we look at it on our phones, can we still read it and can we still click on it? So that is the true test of a scalable email design. Is your email layouts or your client's email layouts, are they scalable? Meaning, are they 100% readable and clickable when they're scaled down to half the size. That's the true test. And that's really the test that we put our designers through. They'll come up with a layout, and they will, again, looks great, let's make it half the size. Oh, I see, look, you can't click on the menu bar. Or, oh, look, you can't read the body copy. So it's really pretty simple. It's one design for all, which is good for us in this very busy email marketing world. But the minimum point size is 14 points. So your body copy is 14 points. Your headlines are up in the 38 points. Your buttons are big. And it's often a single column stacked layout. Okay? And probably many of you are familiar with these techniques. Really the most important thing, and this really goes to the designers, is that Scalable relies on a grid system underneath. And a grid system is just a publishing term. It's basically a system of alignment where you make sure that everything is aligned both horizontally and vertically. The reason why we use that grid system is when, again, we make that layout smaller, it scales proportionately. So that's scalable email design. Again, it's pumped up, big layout. Here's a few examples. I apologize, you might not be able to see them here up on the screen well, but again, a layout that you can still read it and still click on it, everything in the layout completely. Here's another example of one we created for eBay's eco branch called eBay Green. Again, just looking at the size of the nav bars on the top, our body copy on this is 16 points. Everything is big. And another example from Intel. So that's scalable. Everybody got it? Good? Yeah? Pretty simple? All right, one for all. Now, responsive. Now, this is where it gets more fun. So responsive came around about the same time, 2008 or so. But back then, the Android was not playing friendly with responsive. So we jumped in both feet with responsive design, and we couldn't quite get it to work all the time on the Android phone. And frankly, folks, it doesn't work everywhere. But what's happened is in the last couple years with Froyo, frozen yogurt, or ice cream sandwich, or one of these Android releases, it got a lot better. Okay, so what responsive design is it's CSS3, which is Cascading Style Sheets 3. There's a little tag in there, property called @media. And @media says, if I am this document and I am opened on a PC, then I can load these styles. Or if I am opened on a phone, then I can load a different rack of styles. So @media is a very important technique that came about with CSS3. It really wasn't intended for email, it was intended more for the web, but it's really what gave us our foothold with responsive design. So what it does is it's a layout that detects when it's opened on a mobile device, and it changes. It adopts and becomes a true mobile layout. So @media CSS3 is the basis of responsive design. It really renders two different layouts. So you have the large PC version and then the smaller phone version. So I'm going to show you a few examples here, but there's three things that you should all take away with regard to responsive design. This is what to me is really what helped me wrap my head around it. First of all, with responsive design, it's a parent-child relationship. So the big layout, it makes the smaller layout. Okay, they're connected. They're not independent. You couldn't go design one, your large layout, and then a totally different smaller layout. These two are connected. And how are they connected? They're connected through resize, reformat, and delete. So what I mean by that is if I have this big layout here, and I want to make a smaller layout, I can take things on it. I can resize the images, for example, or the width of the page. I can reformat. I can make the copy bigger or smaller or change its color. Or most importantly, I can delete. I can take things away. Because we're going to a mobile design, we want to turn stuff off. So parent-child relationship, the big makes the small by resize, reformat, delete. Okay? Now you'll notice I didn't say add. That's one of the big problems with this, and I'll show you an example. But we can't turn things on. So when we go from the big down to the small, we can't turn on a mobile nav, or we can't suddenly show something that wasn't on the large version. So resize, reformat, delete, no add, at least not that our team has been able to figure out. And it works mainly on the iPhone and the Android inbox. And I have another list a detailed list of where it works and where it doesn't. All right, so how does it work? Before I jump into that, I want to actually just show you an example. So this is a message that we in our design studio worked on for eBay. It wasn't sent by us, it wasn't sent by Yesmail. This is the full-size PC version. It's a Toys R Us campaign. It went out, one of many of these went out obviously throughout the holiday season, and they're continuing to go out now. And basically, you can see full-size version, pretty typical. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize the screen, and you'll see that it pops into the mobile version. Okay. Keep your eye on the button. That's probably what we're probably the most important thing. So what's going on here is resize, reformat, and delete. So let's talk about this. Look at the eBay logo. It's getting resized. It's getting bigger. Look at the button. It's getting resized. Full, true mobile design, 100% clickable, ready to go. Delete. I mentioned this is a pretty important thing. If you look at the top, the area at the top we call the pre-header. They've got another a buyer guarantee. We're simply turning those things off. And because it's email marketing and because the navigation is super important and we're big believers in navigation, you'll see that we're reformatting. So it's at one font size here, but when we resize it, much larger. Why is it larger? So the fingers can click on it. So that's a pretty easy example of resize, reformat, delete, but basically big into small. And you can see the parent-child relationship there. Let me give you, I've got another example here. This is one we created for Domino's Pizza. We had the challenge with them is that they said, you cannot change our large desktop version at all. So remember, with this parent-child relationship, a lot of times you have to change and alter this bigger version to make the smaller version. Well, their challenge was, we can't change it at all. So it took a little extra work, a little extra coding, but again, here's the full-size version, and it goes down into the smaller version. And I'm not sure why the logo's not loading there, but it is there. So a couple examples of responsive, and we have our own example that this is kind of our test bed at Yesmail. Again, a variety of different things, going from a 3 across, for example, down into a 1. Probably the best thing about it, though, is it's just big, dominant buttons. Easy to click, easy to read. All right, so how does it work? It's basically just a if-then statement. How we do it is on screen size. Okay, so if your screen width is X pixels, then load this rack of styles. That's the actual code at the top there. And at Media can be done a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be done by screen size. That's the way we've done it, the way we've seen the most success with it. So again, a few other examples. Sign up for Yesmail's email distribution list for our webinars. You'll see it too is responsive. We worked on this one. This is kind of our test bed. Here's one we didn't create. This is something you probably already get. If you get emails from Twitter, it's responsive, and it's pretty neat. It's very subtle, but it does things like turning things off, resizing, and largely what it does is reformat the copy. Pinterest has a really good one too. Check it on your desktop, then check it on your phone. You'll see the difference. True responsive design, very nice. Again, there's our example from Domino's. All right, so we talked about scalable, we talked about responsive. Let me just kind of lay out the pros and cons, and then I'll wrap it up. So scalable, the pros, hey, it's great. It works everywhere. For us, busy email marketing, one design. We don't have to worry about it's breaking here, there, it doesn't have it. Not 2 things to approve. But the problem is it's not true mobile design. You saw that example I put up there. Even though the copy was 14 points, it's still a little small. It's not true mobile design. It doesn't have that big button. And we live in this 6-second world, so if you can get that copy right in the face and get that impulsive click, that's probably the better way to go. So on the flip side, responsive is that true mobile design. It definitely works in the iPhone perfectly, all iOS. It works in some Android. Requires 2 email designs, and the coding can be kind of complex. And overall, your message weight can go up because you have more code in the layout, frankly. So your messages can get a little heavier, which is not a great thing. But probably a decent payoff. So where do they work? Definitely, as I mentioned, the iPhone. The Android default inbox. So for Android users, a lot of people use the Gmail app to check their mail. It doesn't work there. That's not a terrible thing, though, because if it doesn't work, it'll just show the full-size version, okay? It doesn't necessarily, show the mobile version and break up. It just simply doesn't turn on the styles at all. It shows the full-size version. And the Android default inbox, again, I don't have any hard data on it. I don't, I always ask Android users when we see them, where do you check your mail? A lot of the time, it's the Gmail app, but it does work in the default inbox on the later releases. So Android 3.0, which is, again, ice cream sandwich or cupcake or something like that. Doesn't work on the BlackBerry, unfortunately, but it does work on the Windows Phone, so that's great. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can change the width of the email, resize images, reformat, turn things off, but you cannot add, okay? This is all unlike the web, by the way. So with web pages, responsive design is different. For example, I redesigned Yesmail's web page recently. We did a mobile equivalent, but with that, it's easy. You can turn on a different nav. We can change things. With email, it's a little different. We can't use scripting. So again, this responsive design is totally different than how we would do it with web pages. All right. I'm going to skip through this. I think we've covered just some of the different things that we've done. So a lot of people ask me about what about tablets? And right now, and I'm totally open-minded to this, I'm kind of in the tablets are the desktop camp, okay? And the reason why is we can adjust our pixel widths on our app media. So I can make it so that my mobile version shows up on the tablet, and we've done it, but then you just have this giant button, scrolling up through. It's just not right. So right now, we make it so that our mobile version do not turn on for the tablets. Yeah, Lauren? Yeah, it's a good question, and honestly, it's something that I have not, evaluated yet. So, yeah, yeah. The interesting thing is that because you are targeting by screen size, you can actually do more than one screen size in there. So, if you really had the time and resources, you could do a tablet version theoretically and a smaller desktop version. We have not done that yet, though. So everybody asks, especially the types in this room, well, how does it perform? Is it worth it? Because it does take more time. It takes about 38% more time on the 14 responsive projects we've done. When we looked at time after it's over, it does take more time. But here's the one good thing, folks. It's a one-time event. So it might cost a little bit more, but if you build it into your templates, I mean, if anyone's got a template redesign coming up in the future, you got to have this on the map for it, because once it's in there, it's there. I mean, you publish messages using that template system, and your message is going to be responsive. So again, the performance, the jury's still out. One campaign, however, and they asked that we don't show it, did see a 29% increase in unique clicks. Okay, so what we're talking about here, and we got a lot of numbers folks in the room, we're talking about just the mobile openers. So if we isolate just those mobile openers, we had more clicks from that audience using this layout. And one thing I've noticed is that, and this is typical email marketing or direct marketing in general, is if you have a good offer and it's responsive, then you're going to be well placed. So this particular campaign was an excellent offer. It wasn't even a sales, it was a sign up for service. And our Yesmail responsive webinar invite actually saw a significant increase when we went to it. Again, we do have a lot of responsive layouts that are in market right now, and we're really excited to see what's coming back. All right, so how do you get your emails responsive? Remember, it's not automatic. It's not done by the mailing system, which is still a question I get today. Hey, when is Enterprise 7, which is Yesmail's mailing system, when's it going to be ready for responsive? I wish. It's your production team, it's your coders, it's the doers, it's the people that get underneath the hood of your messages and alter its layout to make it responsive. But again, it's a one-time event, and once it's in your template, you're done. All right, so which one can you use? Again, we advocate for both, so let's think about this. There's the big version and there's the small version. The big version, we should use scalable techniques, so that big version should use all those pumped up techniques that I talked about. But that big version can then turn things off and alter itself to make that smaller version. So in essence, we're using both techniques, and that's really what we advocate for, and that's what we do. And again, if that big version doesn't turn into the small one for some environments, no harm lost. You're still doing you still have a good looking layout that can scale down. All right, so to wrap it up, so in summary, they're both good. Scalable is a lot easier. It's not truly mobile, but responsive is truly mobile. It's much more interesting, takes more time to code, but I think it has a lot of promise, and we'll see as we go forward how that will play out. So before I wrap up, this year we do have our 2013 lookbook. So if anyone wants to come by, I'm just sitting over here by the fireplace, and I'd be happy to pass out. It's just a portfolio of email designs. It has several responsive designs in it, and it also has several microsites, landing pages, anything sort of email related. This is the work from our past year. And again, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Great job, Matt. So I have to credit Mr. Contrarian Delaquist for this line of questioning. I was talking to him the other day about this whole topic, and the question comes up is, while all this effort is going into optimizing the mobile, there's a theory that the purchases, the conversions, are still happening with people on the desktop version. Right?
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Right, and so I've got similar data that you do around the click-through rates and stuff, but do you have any on the actual sort of revenue or conversion side of where is the purchase or the conversion still happening? Is it still mostly happening on the desktop side?
We've seen that exact same thing. It's definitely what we see more conversion on the larger desktop versions, yeah. That's across the board, that's the exact same observation. And that's really why there's so much emphasis on responsive right now, is like, hey, what are we going to do to adjust to this? But that's the exact same thing we see is across the board for the people that are not the mobile openers, they tend to purchase more, they tend to convert more at a higher rate, yeah. And really the other big thing, and this is what I thought you were going to mention, is mobile-enabled landing pages. So 2 of these projects we did for sites that went to non-mobile-enabled landing pages. In fact, our first webinar went to a full-size landing page that you had to pinch and scroll and zoom. Once that was made mobile-enabled, we did see slightly better results. So it has to be that sort of handshake, obviously. All right, anyone else? Any other questions? All right, thanks very much.